Welcome back, YouTubers, to Q&A 160, that is 160, with us, the British Fist.
Gotcha.
And you know what makes us so special, MJ? Because we think, therefore we are. Much like a certain Damien Sandow, although he's pretty much getting buried right now, like he did at Money in the Bank. But anyway, I'm Mr. Parkin. This guy sitting next to me who thinks, therefore he is. It's MJ.
What's up?
And we're going to answer some more questions for you in this Q&A. If you want to ask us questions, please put them preferably in the comment section below. And if you have any other social networking means, such as Facebook and Twitter, you can also ask us through that.
So please make sure you contact us in the links in the description box below.
Yes, and we think, therefore we are. So going on to Sean Anthony's question, do you think, therefore I am, when Sami Zayn comes into WWE main roster, he should feud with Cesaro like in NXT? It wouldn't be a bad concept. I mean, if they have good in-ring chemistry, have good mic chemistry, they've had a really good feud on NXT. So why not transfer that to the WWE main roster simply because of the fact they can have a really good match on a pay-per-view?
That's the one thing I've liked about NXT. They bring wrestlers from the WWE into NXT to give them big spotlighted matches. So why do they not continue the great match they had on NXT into the WWE as their first feud, or at least a short upcoming feud?
Yeah, I think it would more depend really on what level Cesaro is at in WWE. I mean, by this time next year, for example, he may be a main event guy in WWE. Maybe he's winning Money in the Bank or something by this time next year, or Royal Rumble or something. So maybe he'd be at too high of a level really to be feuding with a rookie. It would be then like a Sami Zayn. So, but now I think it would work now, but maybe not later down the line when I think WWE may try and make this guy a bit more legit.
Well, I think with Cesaro, yes, with him being a newer talent stone to the main event, he needs to be there quite solidly. But like Orton and stuff, who's been there a while, could do it. But for this question, for what they've done on NXT, eventually it could happen.
Cesaro would have to go over though, definitely. Howard Starr, when is Cena going to start wrestling in wrestling gear instead of wrestling in shorts for over 10 years? Well, I don't really think there's too much point in changing his wrestling gear now, essentially.
With John Cena, it's like changing from one wrestler's wrestling gear into something that doesn't quite look their part. So for John Cena to go from shorts to straps and stuff, it wouldn't look right on John Cena.
No, and like I said, it's been the same character for 10 years, so why bother changing the gear now? Really, unless you're going to change his character, which is never going to happen, there's no point in doing it. Thomas Rodriguez, did you play WrestleMania 2000 or No Mercy for Nintendo 64? I must admit, I was more of a PlayStation guy myself, and I had a Mega Drive, like I believe you did too.
Thing is, with the Sega Mega Drive, did so many great games that went on it. The PlayStation was my next main console. Nintendo, yes, they had wrestling games that I would have been interested in playing, but no.
No, I mean, like I said, I was more of a PS1 guy when it first came out, and I never really had a games console until that point. I remember playing WWF Warzone as my first wrestling game, I believe, on the PlayStation. There were so many good games back then, like Crash Bandicoot and Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff. I miss those kind of games.
Taking it away from what Nintendo offer, but obviously our hearts when we were growing up was through the Sega and then the PS.
Renegade Man 83. Who would you choose out of the two to be WWE World Heavyweight Champion?
Good question.
Bound to be some good ones in here. Santino Marella or Heath Slater? Oh boy. I have to say Santino simply because if you do the story correct, I think he could be like a real good underdog like challenger. Do you remember at Elimination Chamber 2012 when Daniel Bryan was the champion? Do you remember that massive pop that Santino got when he did the Cobra on Daniel Bryan and he got the 2 count on him for the in that Elimination Chamber match? If you could do that again, kind of like a very, 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 very well done version of Eric Young. I think that could work with Santino. Not with Heath Slater though.
To be honest, as much as I would love to see a more serious yet comedy Santino Marella, I think they blew the chance when they had him finally have a good Rumble moment, only for it to be the time of Alberto Del Rio, when it could have been the time of Santino out of nowhere.
I think Santino winning would have been a bit silly.
No, it would not.
There we go. Which former WWE wrestler would you like to return to the company? John Morrison, Shelton Benjamin, Luke Gallows, Chris Masters, Daivari, or Matt Hardy? You go first.
Wow, there's 3 names that stood out quite strongly there, but I'm going to take away one of them. Like Matt Hardy, I think his performance when he left was starting to spice up with Edge.
And he's in TNA now.
That's another
Yeah.
problem. But I did enjoy Matt Hardy before he left. Then it was Shelton Benjamin. I think he did step up his game, even though the mama thing just didn't really work for him. But John Morrison stepped up his game. The WWE, thinking he didn't have the right mic skills, was just let down. But I'll say John Morrison.
I know people are probably going to wonder why I'm saying this guy, but I think at this point in time we need some more bigger guys in WWE. So I'm just going to come out and say Luke Gallows. I know his performance in TNA wasn't very good, but we need some more bigger guys. Whether or not that means giving him a manager or something, well, that's what I think anyway. Do you think TNA will die as many fans suggested? I think I haven't seen TNA for a while now, but I think the future of TNA really depends on how well these New York tapings go and how well the next 2 months of TV is. So they will hopefully renew their thing with with Spike. It's very easy to get the two mixed up.
It could.
I could Skype Spike. Imagine how much of a complicated process that would be. I'm Skyping Spike. Yeah, carry on.
My answer would be the fact that TNA rely so solidly on a TV deal. Once that's finished, yes, they're going to have to try their hardest to look elsewhere. But when that goes, then they're going to struggle. So I think right now they're in safe-ish hands that could become not.
Be like if WCW the reason why WCW went out of business is because the Time Warner and the AOL merger didn't want wrestling on their channel anymore and they didn't have a TV show. So if that happens to TNA, then they would be out of business. What are your thoughts of WWE signing big name indie wrestlers, and do you think the foundation of wrestling will change? I mean, I think the problem is WWE are looking to the indies now because they can't take like American footballers and train them as wrestlers, and it's just not working out for them. Maybe the process is taking too long, so they're thinking, if we can get some of these indie wrestlers that have been on the independent circuit for a while, they know what they're doing. If we can train them to wrestle the WWE way, then that'll be more beneficial to us, and it won't take as much time to the point where they're getting quite old at that point. So I have no problem with WWE signing people like Kevin Steen, perhaps Prince Devitt, perhaps Kenta. I just have a real thing where Vince McMahon doesn't like pushing guys that he didn't create, and that's the only thing I have against them signing these independent talents.
Independent will obviously go to NXT first, so the more younger talent or good high-flying moves that go to NXT, the more entertaining that show become. As for sting up to the WWE, that we don't have to start thinking about just yet. But more indie wrestlers to go to NXT, the better.
And will it be the foundation of wrestling change? I don't think so. I think the foundation of wrestling change right now is smaller guys, in my opinion. And I think we need some bigger guys in there to make wrestling seem a little bit more legit. But that's just me.
With the amount of big guys, I know it's not part of your question, but the amount of big guys that are possibly going to be leaving within the next 5 so years, we do need NXT, especially to start bringing in dominant bigger guys or straight to the main roster if they're ready.
And you know what, right now on NXT, I don't really see any main event level talents or future main event level talents on there, which is a shame. The only one I could really see is Mojo Rawley, but it doesn't look like he's progressing as much as he really should be doing. There you go. The 299. Your 5 favorite big guys in WWE history. Okay. Andre the Giant.
Kane.
You like Kane. I know you like Kane. Undertaker. I guess he'd be classed as a big guy, wouldn't he? Big Show. I know now we don't really think he's that great, but Big Show, for his size, is an incredible athlete, in my opinion. I say Mark Henry would be the other one that we know, but there are other big guys.
I kind of liked, even though the WWE failed him, was slightly Matt Morgan. But that was just...
TNA also failed him as well. He may as well have just continued on as a basketball player, but there you go. There were other big guys in like the Hogan era, but we just really can't think of them off the top of our heads. Your 5 favorite feuds ever. Oh boy. I must admit, Triple H, Mick Foley, and Cactus Jack was a damn good feud.
And Shawn Michaels.
The one, you like the Shawn Michaels feud. I think the one, the feud in 2000 with Triple H, and Mick Foley, it's a feud I definitely enjoyed. The feuds between the Cardi Boys and the Dudley Boys and Edge and Christian were always entertaining, in my opinion.
If I had to go another, I'd say, even though I'm using that name again, Triple H and more Orton and Batista, I enjoyed the feud, but they really went at each other, breaking out of that.
So the Evolution feuds, I guess.
More
Post-Evolution.
Not Batista one, forget that. It was more the Orton.
Okay. Vince McMahon versus Steve Austin was always an entertaining feud.
I want to go back a few years.
Real staple of the Attitude Era.
DX versus the Nation of Domination.
DX. Really? I thought you were going to say Spirit Squad for a minute. Yeah, let's not laugh at that. If you have any favourite feuds, please put them in the comment section below. Johnny Castaway, your thoughts on potentially doing a Money in the Bank match to defend Daniel Bryan's title, even if he doesn't vacate it, making 2 Money in the Bank matches. This was asked before Money in the Bank, but I think if this would have been said to me before Money in the Bank and they didn't come up with the idea, I would have said it would be a very good idea to do a Money in the Bank title, the Money in the Bank contract match and a WWE Championship sort of Money in the Bank style match. I think that was definitely the best way of doing it, even though the rest of the card was shit.
I'm going against this, to be honest. Part of the build-up to Money in the Bank was Triple H could have announced both matches at the same time and had possibly the losers go into the briefcase match whatever way. And plus, I didn't think 2 was really needed. Yes, you still need that teaser of the briefcase. Because of Daniel Bryan's accident, the championship was the more important one. But at the end of the day, Money in the Bank now should really be at WrestleMania.
Yeah, no, I believe so. But I think at this point in time, with the situation the way it was the right thing, in my opinion, to have a briefcase match and one for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. It just made a lot of sense, in my opinion. And you kind of have to have a Money in the Bank match and Money in the Bank as well. So, JP Payne. Who would you give the Money in the Bank to between Ziggler, Cesaro, Barrett, and Sandow, and any member of the Shield? Who, when, and where would you have them cash in? I mean, really, I don't think I'd have given it to Barrett, to be honest. I think it was a little bit early, in the Wade Barrett, is time to really do that in terms of his gimmick. I think it would have been good giving it to Cesaro, being with Paul Heyman and stuff like that. At least be able to, get on TV with that, and have Paul Heyman, probably carry it around for him. I don't think I'd have given it to any member of the Shield personally, even though they give it to Seth Rollins. Just because I don't think it's the right time for them in their singles push yet. I'd probably have given it to Cesaro personally, but I know they ended up giving it to Seth Rollins.
Well, cancelling down Ziggler, I felt if the WWE never kept dropping him every time they teased to go somewhere, maybe. Cesaro, yes. Barrett, he had a whole year, so he had a whole year to use his gimmick and use the briefcase to build himself up towards the main event scene. Sandow, WWE, what the hell are you doing? And the Shield, they're all screaming out to be ready for something, but as single competitors, they needed more time.
Danny Allmark, with how bad TNA and WWE are in creative and writing, do you see yourselves not watching them anymore? Well, I'm only watching NXT, so I don't watch TNA or WWE anymore, and quite frankly, I don't really miss it.
With me, I think the fact that the WWE has been a strong part of my life from childhood to now, even though I still consider myself as a child, it's important to me. Yes, it's nothing like it should be or once was, but it's still something that I hold on to and find stuff to enjoy.
Rossi Bossy, do you think CM Punk returned too quickly in 2011? If so, when would you have had him return? He did return too quickly, but the thing is, WWE had a very big pay-per-view in SummerSlam to sell, so they kind of needed a big main event, and CM Punk returning and Cena and combining those belts was probably the only real big match they had at the time. I'd have had him return like later in the year or early in 2012, to be honest. If you do what CM Punk did and come back that early, you have all the leverage on your side, and it just makes no sense from a storyline standpoint to come back, be in a match with John Cena, and then lose your title to Del Rio after he cashes in Money in the Bank after you get powerbombed by a 50-odd-year-old Kevin Nash.
I felt that WWE could have maybe taken a risk and thrown another match at SummerSlam and then gone ahead with keeping CM Punk out for longer. But obviously, with the WWE wanting to be safe than sorry, they went with CM Punk.
I like the look of this next question. Adam Kahela. What do you think about the idea of WWE doing an NXT versus WWE live special / pay-per-view? If they were to do it, I'd have Ziggler versus Breeze, The Ascension versus the Usos, or whoever the tag team champs are at the time, Neville versus Bryan, champ versus champ, they work well, Paige versus Charlotte, then probably just throw in Zayn versus Cesaro just because they work really well, and if Punk did come back, Punk versus Graves. I like that idea. I think the only problem with it is, though, you'd have to have the WWE guys go over in pretty much every match, but I like the idea of, the WWE Tag Team Champions going up against the NXT Tag Team Champions, the Divas Champion going up against the NXT Women's Champion, the WWE Champion going up against the NXT Champion, or maybe even like the IC Champion. I do like that idea a lot, and having maybe guys that are similar on the NXT roster to the guys that are, similar to the ones on the WWE Raw and SmackDown roster. I like that idea a lot. I'm just not sure how practical it would be.
I think, as we've been told, or as we feel many times, it's not always about the final result. Yes, the final result could affect how you felt about the match, but with the NXT guys putting on the performance they are, and the WWE similar guy putting on their performance, it could be a very good match, show the chemistry, show the build. And yes, sometimes maybe the NXT could get a fluky win. I don't think it's a bad idea, and it's just make sure you're pairing up the two right wrestlers for it to be a success.
I mean, Adrian Neville got a victory over RVD last week on NXT, which is a good sign. But I think it would be a really good concept to do in that 2-hour special, like, NXT. Can the NXT superstars come over their, Raw SmackDown counterparts? I thought that'd be a good little draw to the show. What's happened to Corey Graves? He was facing Zayn, getting the upper hand a lot. Now he's not on TV. What's happened to Corey Graves is he's got a second concussion, and that's why he's not on TV right now. And to be honest, WWE have been thinking about taking him off NXT altogether because of his concussions, and maybe giving him some sort of commentator role or something.
I did read this article, and they're just saying how, because it's second concussion, Ziggler can get away with it. I think his wrestling thing, he's just wanting to be stopped and go and do something else.
They compare him. A lot of people compare him to CM Punk. I don't know why, but maybe he's going to have the character of taking his ball home and just going home already in his own NXT. He's going to be the NXT's version of CM Punk just because of that. Two more questions before we leave this Q&A. RFV089, Mr. Parkin, thoughts on Louis Van Gaal's appointment as Man United manager, and who do you think will win the World Cup? Louis Van Gaal as a manager, I think he's exactly the kind of manager Manchester United need to manage the egos and stuff. I don't think David Moyes did a good enough job with that. So I think Louis Van Gaal is a very good appointment. Hopefully he'll bring in some big players, and the fact that he is a big manager will help do that because we're not in Europe this season. As for who do I think will win the World Cup, I think it'll either be Brazil or Argentina.
Although with the red team.
The red team.
The red team will win.
So Spain are out.
The red team.
The red team. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, NJ, the red team. NJ's very accurate predictions only here on the British Risk Q&A.
Yeah.
Our wrestling, although Colombia are outsiders in my opinion.
Yeah.
Put that out there. Are wrestling fans hard to please? I mean, I think internet fans are to a degree.
Nowadays, yes, because at the end of the day, the amount of comments and the amount of tweets you say, this is not what I want to see, where's all this, where's all that? Remember when this happened back here? I think because the fans, even though they're trying their hardest to move on, they're struggling. We're trying to show that we're accepting that we're in the PG era, they're staying that way for the right reasons, but many fans or people in general are seeing stuff that's missing and pointing it out, so they're becoming hard to please.
And also, it's hard to please everyone, isn't it? Let's face it. I mean, you're going to do something, some people are going to like it, some people are not. So it's hard to please everyone. Anyway, that's been another Q&A with us, the British Fist.
Gotcha.
Any more questions, you know where to put them down where mine and NJ's crotches are in that comment section below. NJ, would you like to outro us?
Thank you very much for watching, people. This has been another fun Q&A. Please continue to send your questions, and please, please, please make sure you keep supporting the British Fist.